President Biden touched down in Japan earlier this morning to meet with world leaders at the G7 summit, but the debt ceiling talks continue to loom over Washington. The latest sticking point for both sides, work requirements for federal aid recipients. Biden said he would not accept, quote, anything of consequence on the Republicans' demand, while House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the issue is his red line. Former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner is at the big wall with charts explaining this dilemma. Steve, what you got?
Well, Mika, we've mostly been talking during this debt ceiling thing about spending cuts and the extent of the spending cuts that the Republicans want. But we should talk for a minute about revenues, particularly because there were some new numbers that came out yesterday from the Congressional Budget Office that kind of underscore what the Republicans have in mind on revenues. Kevin McCarthy's on record as saying that he wants to extend the Trump tax cuts, which are supposed to expire starting in the middle of this decade, but extend them and make them permanent. And let's take a look at what the impact of that would be. So, as I said, they start to expire, and so there's not a lot of revenue loss if you extend them in the first couple of years, but then it jumps up really quickly. And this was all done to conform to a bunch of really arcane budget rules that the Senate and the House have. But nonetheless, this would cost the Treasury over $400 billion a year, starting in 2027, reaching $500 billion a year at the end of the 10-year budget window that we all look at. So this would have a massive increase on the deficit, which you can see over here. The deficit, before you do any of this, over the next 10 years is going to be $20 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And this provision, extending these tax cuts and making them permanent, would add $3.5 trillion to that deficit.
So wait a second, Steve. So you're telling me that Kevin McCarthy is talking about how they need to be fiscally responsible, but they want to add $3.5 trillion to the debt as part of these negotiations?
Not as part of these negotiations. I mentioned this because the CBO yesterday came out with this new score, as we call it, of what it would cost. But Kevin McCarthy is on record as saying that as and when the Republicans get control of Congress and the White House back, this is what they want to do.
$3.5 trillion. OK, well, that's sort of inconsistent. Yeah, go ahead.
So what is the TCJA, as we call it, the Trump tax cut? Let's just, as a reminder, talk about what extending those tax cuts would mean. So of the total amount of the Trump tax cuts, 54% of that went to people making more than $75,000 a year. 31% went to business, and only 16% of those tax cuts that we now want to extend and make permanent went to people making less than $75,000 a year. And another way to look at this is what would be the impact on people's after-tax income of making those tax cuts permanent? And this is by income. If you're in the top 1%, which is $700,000 of income or more, your after-tax income would go up by 3.4%. If you're in the next 4%, which is from $400,000 to $700,000, your after-tax income would go up by 4.1%. But everybody else, the bottom 80%, none of the bottom 80% on average would see their incomes go up by as much as 2%. So these are highly regressive tax cuts that favor the rich that the Republicans want to extend as soon as they get enough control of Congress and the White House to do it.
And what's your next chart?
So my next chart gets to the point you were making, Joe, about the actual impact of what the Republicans want to do on the deficit. So if you start here, what they call their Limit, Save, and Grow plan, which is what is on the table right now in the White House, which, as we talked about last week, would cut 47% of spending from what we call discretionary programs, would save $4.8 trillion. But as you pointed out, we'd give back $3.5 trillion. And you end up with a deficit reduction of only
but you know, Steve, really quickly, that $4.8 trillion, if people are looking at them, that's not a real number. They're talking about absolutely savaging the government, savaging the ability for the government to do the most basic of things. And you look at what they want to do to the IRS. Yes, the IRS. Here's an agency that's been slashed. The funding for the IRS has been slashed so much that if you, as a working class or middle class American, have a tax refund coming and you don't get it, Good luck getting on the phone, getting the IRS to answer, because they don't have many people left to answer the phones. If you do, you're going to be waiting on the phone for hours or hours. If the IRS messes up something and you need to talk to a live human being at the IRS, good luck getting them on the phone. The software is antiquated. Everything is badly outdated, and all they're doing is lying about the IRS, saying they want to go to middle America and kill people with AR-15s. That's what an aging Republican senator said. But again, you look at that, that's not even a real number. They're just saying, let's just cut everything that the government does. And it's just absolute insanity.
47%, Joe, of all those discretionary programs, the Department of Agriculture, Labor, people who make your food and your water safe, all those budgets, 47%. And the real irony on the IRS is that the IRS actually makes the government money. If you cut the IRS budget, revenues actually, spending actually, and revenues go down because they're not doing as many audits, they're not policing the wealthy taxpayers.
And by the way, guess what we can do here? We can go to the grocery store and be pretty darn sure that when we buy groceries, it's not going to poison our kids. We can be pretty sure when we drink water, it's going to be taken care of. In the few cases where that's not the case, it makes national news for months. Look at Flint, Michigan, makes national news for months. Because why? Because we have government agencies that make sure that when your children, your family, your parents, your grandparents turn on the faucet, clean water comes out. The food is fine. When you get on an airplane, when you put your loved ones on an airplane, you know that it's the safest thing that you actually can do, not only in America, but in the world, because it is so safe. And by the way, Steve, that takes a lot of money. All of this takes money for us to live in the kind of country that we live in right now. And they're talking about slashing food safety. They're talking about slashing air safety. They're talking about slashing the ability of Americans to get their tax refunds back in a timely manner. I mean, there are radical consequences to this number. This number's never going to pass. This is never, Congress will never pass this. The president will never sign it. A Republican president would never sign this. I'm just saying they're coming. I can't swear because some kids have woken up. They've come to these negotiations with numbers that are rank horse crap. And they're sitting there with a straight face going, oh, Joe Biden won't cut, but let's ramp up the Trump tax cuts again so the richest people in America can get richer.
Can't argue with any of that, Joe. That is essentially what they're doing. And on top of all that, they don't even make that much of a difference in the deficit that they claim that they're so worried about. And you can see that out here. So our deficit hit $3 trillion during the pandemic for lots of good reasons. We had to spend that money. We've got it down to $1.5 trillion. It is going to, this dotted black line, it's going to continue to go up on its own simply because of increased costs for Social Security, Medicare, things like that. But here's the interesting thing. If you look at the two Republican plans, the Just Cut Spending plan, which is this red line, there's some deficit reduction there. If you put the tax extensions back in, that deficit reduction almost entirely goes away. And in fact, this little blue line down here is Biden's plan. He would actually reduce the deficit when you get out to 2033 by more than the Republicans under any of these plans. And so, ironically, they claim that they're the party of fiscal responsibility, but there's not much impact on the deficit when you get done with these tax cuts for the rich.